Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly edition of RHI, Stories of Courage, Hope, Attitude, and Inspiration through the RHI Foundation, brought to you by our good friends at Wilson Kehoe Winningham, including Bill Winningham, one of the best guys in the world. And to introduce our special guest, I'll have Mindy Fox.
I'm sure most of you remember Jim Graham, one of my best friends in my whole life. I just adore him, as do most of our donors, because Jim was the face of RHI. He was the leader of the RHI Foundation since 2001. So I'm going to let him be the star of the show today because I'm so excited that you came and you're doing this for us. So.
I'm so excited to be here. I haven't been in the building for 2 years, and man, there's a lot changing here, which is pretty exciting. So what question did you have for me at first? You had an initial question about how things have changed?
Yeah, my first question is when you started growing this. You always came in so clean shaven. I've never seen any of his facial hair before. Was that just when you retired, or?
Within 2 weeks after I retired, I haven't shaved since then. So it's just glorious. And I said when I wanted to grow a beard at 25, I wasn't able to. And so now I can finally do it, and there we are.
And you're loving it.
I'm loving it.
People probably don't recognize you. They have to do like a triple take.
There's been a couple who haven't. So.
All right, so since 2001, so tell us your story about the beginning of Jim Graham and the RHI Foundation. Start with that.
All right. Well, actually, the RHI Foundation started in 1994, 2 years after the hospital opened. And so I came 9 years after the hospital opened. And the foundation had been dormant for all purposes. And we regenerated it in late 2001, and over the next 5 years or so, worked to develop I guess I'd call it a culture of philanthropy. Because no one here, there were two audiences that we were trying to approach. One was obviously the employees, because nobody really understood the power that philanthropy could have on the hospital, that people are actually willing to donate to the hospital and make things happen and make changes happen. I always said that RHI would still be here if the foundation didn't exist, but it wouldn't be nearly the same, and it wouldn't be as nice and have a lot of the features and activities that it has now because of the foundation. The other audience was our former patients and their families and the community, to help them understand that RHI operates at a very, very thin margin, and a lot of the things that the hospital wanted to do couldn't, because it had to take care of the building, take care of the employees, and take care of the patients. And so the extra features that would make this a wonderful place just couldn't happen. So the very first thing we did to try to show everybody that philanthropy could have a big impact was that our CEO at the time, Denny Armington, still see Denny, he's just doing very well. He wanted always to have a piano in the lobby, and we thought, well, okay, let's just try that. And so over the course of 4 months, we raised $18,000 and bought a new piano for the lobby that plays itself. And I think it did two things. It made RHI a pleasant place, more welcoming and comfortable for patients. And it also showed our employees what could happen when philanthropy did have an impact, and that people actually would give money back to a place that had served them over the course of those years, and so of course the time they were here. So we ended up with 25 or 30 people who donated, one lovely gift that really put us over the top, and then it was off to the races. We then, the RHI sports program had been in existence for a while. It basically just was able to get by on a very, very small budget. And so that was a focus for a number of years, to try to increase philanthropy that would help that out. And as I've learned, suddenly there's a huge infusion into the RHI sports program. And that has been, I'm sure, I don't know a lot about it because I've been out of touch, but it sounds like it's going to be a tremendous asset to the sports program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure you know, since you've been involved for so long, how hard and for how many years the sports program has tried to access disabled veterans. Because the sports program's always been open to anybody in the community with a physical disability, but it's been such a barrier to get that out to disabled veterans and members of the armed forces that we have this sports program. How do you reach that? How do you make them aware that this program exists and then build that trust and get them involved in it? So more than just the funding from the VA grant, I think is the benefit of we finally are able to bring those disabled vets into our sports program, which is really exciting.
Exactly, because initially the sports program was primarily for a few patients who had been here, and that was how it all started. Audie Kemp and some of the good folks who began the sports program, it was limited because we didn't have the ability to market, to get to know who was out there. And then slowly it evolved, and one of the things that really jump-started awareness was involving children. And a lot of people don't realize that RHI is not a children's facility. This is an adult rehabilitation hospital. So finding children who could benefit from the sports program was very difficult. And that when that finally kicked off and a number of outreach marketing efforts happened, children became involved, and that's grown exponentially. And people, I think at the early stages, thought this was all totally supported by the hospital. And it's all totally supported by private donations. And so to be able to parlay those donations into an awareness and bring more people in and serve the community, it was very difficult. But I think this grant, as you say, is going to make it a lot easier to attract the people, the audiences that we weren't serving, specifically veterans.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. Every time I think about a 6-year-old kid playing wheelchair basketball with one of our older disabled veterans and having them play wheelchair basketball together or whatever sport it might be, I just think that's such a beautiful vision, and that's finally going to become a reality. Yeah, so it's pretty neat.
One of the other things that that Denny Armington, our former CEO, really wanted to do, and he knew to be among the top tier of rehabilitation hospitals, we needed to involve ourselves in research to help the patients get better quicker, to make their experiences more successful, their outcomes more successful, and to prevent a lot of the very bad things that can happen when someone doesn't have a lot of follow-up. So in the early 2000, probably 2005, we started an effort to increase the amount of research that we were able to conduct. One of those efforts was we had a very nice gift from the Ruth Lilly Foundation back when Ruth Lilly was still alive. And we used a big chunk of that donation to attract a director because one of our old board members wisely said, you have to have someone who is going to do this. It's not going to be a bunch of people who just want to do research. You have to have a director. So we were able to bring Dr. Jim Malik. Everyone remembers Dr. Malik from the Mayo Clinic, and through his efforts and a lot of fine donations, we were able to build a research program to where it's, I think, pretty much internationally known today. I know Dr. Samantha Backhouse just received a huge national recognition, and I remember when she very first time started the idea of the Lisa Thompson brain injury awareness, or the brain injury coping skills program. Just a little thing with a few patients, and now that's grown to, again, to the level where Sam is getting national recognition. So
in fact, Mayo Clinic is running a program based off of Dr. Backhouse's BICS program.
Yeah, so it all comes and goes around. It's very cool. So for me, watching all that evolve over 15 years has just been probably it is the most gratifying part of my professional career ever, was to watch all of this grow and and also to continue and to grow even more. Because I've been having a whale of a time in retirement, but I can be quite comforted and happy to know that it's in great hands and things are growing, and I couldn't be more pleased.
So you bring up a good point about the research.
Mm-hmm.
That was all funded through philanthropy, and so much of why RHI is the best rehabilitation hospital in the state of Indiana is because of the research partnership we have with the IU School of Medicine, as well as the research that we conduct on our own and with other organizations. I know there are other organizations even in Europe and different universities where we partner together and we do all of this research, and it translates directly into our patient care. That all started because of philanthropy. So if we didn't have the RHI Foundation that you resuscitated, and if we didn't have the gifts from our generous donors, that would have never happened. It wouldn't continue to happen. And when you think about your entire career, now that you're retired, that's what you think is the most impactful thing you've done?
Absolutely, absolutely. When I talk about Dr. Backhouse, the way the foundation really helped out is that the initial stages of a research project, you have to gather data. You have to do your research and gather data to prove that what you're doing is working, and that is not inexpensive. And to get a grant from the government or other organizations, you have to have data and you have to have proof that this works. And so without the foundation, the foundation funded Dr. Backhouse's early research so that she could prove that what she was doing was working. And because of that, then she submitted that and has been able to get national and government grants over the course of the years. And we did that with a number of research projects here that helped jumpstart them, helped kick them off, that they wouldn't have happened had it not done it. But I think really the most gratifying part of it, not only that we grew the research program so quickly and so successfully, was the impact it had on patients, where people who have been through the brain injury coping skills program have told us time and time again, they were ready to take their lives. They were ready to give up. They were ready to get divorced. It was just a mess, and that program that Dr. Backhouse put together saved them. So beyond the success of the program, it's just the impact on the patients, which, well, I jump subjects here, is another reason that we talked about, why do I still support? I've been gone for 3 years, and why do I still support RHI? Well, the needs don't stop. And they always say, one of my favorite slogans has always been, think globally, act locally. When I give to RHI still, I know I can see it. I can see it impacting people. I can see it. I know the people personally, and many of them who benefited from the foundation. And so that's just called smart giving. And I wanted to bring up, as Mindy knows, today is Giving Tuesday. So it's kind of fun that I'm here since it's Giving Tuesday, and I think it's kind of it's a new thing that's happened over the past, I don't know how many times, 5-6 years nationally, where you try to have one day of impact, and it works. It first started in the universities and the colleges, and now a lot of the healthcare and arts all go depend on and take advantage of Giving Day. And I think it's a great idea, and I think it's a good time towards the end of the year to give to RHI.
Right. So, it is.
It is.
And you're right, it's Giving Tuesday, so this is going to air tomorrow.
Well, yesterday was Giving Tuesday, so give on Wednesday.
And when you make a gift to the RHI Foundation, you bring up a good point. It's almost like our donors are planting seeds. So the money, the donations that you make are planting seeds that grow into wonderful programs that save hundreds of lives all over the world. So it is global, even though you're giving local. Mm-hmm. You've got people in Europe running our programs that are saving lives over in Europe. And that's a pretty interesting way to look at it, but it's true. Mm-hmm. So And we have other initiatives besides just research. This year we have funded many sneakers, athletic shoes for our patients. Some of our patients come here and they don't have the means to purchase shoes, and the hospital, the medical community provides socks with those rubber bottoms, you know. But so much of what our therapists do here is called high intensity training, the HIIT training, where they've got them walking through the halls and you literally have to move out of the way or you're going to get run over. And that's because they have better outcomes when they're really pushing themselves. That can be difficult for them to do without shoes, just to do in their socks. If they're struggling with walking and they can trip over their feet, they can injure themselves, cause further problems. So the foundation has been purchasing shoes for these patients that have no way of getting shoes, and they need those shoes to do the therapies that are going to help them so much with better outcomes. So if you donate $50, you're buying a pair of shoes for someone who desperately needs them. If you donate $500, you can, you know, provide shoes for just that many more people. 10 people, am I doing my math right? So it all makes a difference. It all helps. And Giving Tuesday, give locally, it has a global impact. It really does. And you're changing lives. You're saving lives. I love that.
And I think too that you know, there is the research and all the equipment and the pianos and things that you give, but little things like that. Shoes, that's a new program that I think is very cool. It's a sense of dignity for the patient, and it provides them comfort and confidence, because this is a scary place to be when you've been through something. This can be a very scary process, and I think a lot of what we tried to do with the piano, with who knows what, shoes, special glasses for stroke patients, little things like that that don't make the headlines, but they make an impact. They help a person feel better and hopefully want to get better. So it's all around, from the big to the small. It's great.
It all makes
it all makes sense. So
yeah.
So what else I've been doing? When I retired, I had no grandchildren. In 3 years, I have 6 of them, and I'll soon have 7 in January. So maybe that's why I don't have time to shave. That's just an outside, just an aside.
So you're just loving on all the grandbabies now.
And there are a lot of them. Yeah, we'll have 7 of them under the age of 3.
Wow.
So that's crazy.
That keeps you busy.
It's a lot of fun.
Any little Jimmies running around?
There's my son Joe had a boy named Harrison, but his middle name is James.
Yeah.
Harrison James Graham.
That's
which
a great name.
is a good deal. It's a really fun deal.
And he's a physician.
Joe is a physician, a rehabilitation physician in Chicago. When he graduated from medical school, we had a toast, and he said that his inspiration to go into rehabilitation was the RHI sports program, from volunteering at the Water Seat Clinic when he was 13 years old. And I didn't know that. And then, so now he is a 3rd-year resident in Chicago at Schwab Rehabilitation Hospital, and just loving it. So you never know where things are going to go.
That's pretty awesome. So there's another big thing that happened from your career and your connection here at RHI. Now we have another physician in physical medicine and rehabilitation.
Another rehab physician, yes. I'm not sure he'll come back here because his wife is from Chicago, so they may stay up there. But anyway, he's doing well. He's doing quite well, as my daughters are.
It's nice. And you, thank you for continuing to support all of our patients and everything.
Thank you for having me in. The old place looks wonderful.
Yeah, we're getting ready to do another extension. On the 5th unit, it's going to be really nice. We finally are going to move most of our patient beds into single patient rooms, which is great.
Wonderful.
Our patients are going to like that. So one last question.
Yes.
What would you want to say to all the people that you've known? There are so many, and I'm not going to name them, but who supported the RHI Foundation, who continue to support the RHI Foundation, those who might become a new donor to the RHI Foundation. What would you say to them?
Well, to the old friends and our old friends, many that we've lost, which has been very difficult, because that's one of the hard things of this job, and Mindy knows it better than I do, that we get to know people quite well. We're friends with our donors, and We want them to invest their treasures and their time into RHI, but we have to let them know that it's going to be used wisely. And so to all the folks that I know, I miss you. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing great. The foundation is in best hands, as Dan Voloshin and I knew that Mindy was the only one to take over, because her heart is in the right place. So that I would say, take care of yourselves, keep up the good work. And for those of you that hopefully become a new donor, just know that it's used wisely here, and it's invested in people, and you can see the results. And I would encourage every one of you to join me. And I mean, I've been gone for 3 years, and I'm still invested. So thank you for having me in here.
I just love you. Thank you. Thanks, Jim Graham. And thanks to our awesome sponsors, Wilson Kehoe Winningham, for bringing us RHI. Hope that this fueled you with courage, hope, attitude, and inspiration. And we'll see you next week.